I'm Sarah Weiler from Contemporary Education, here to talk about how we can develop students' agency in schools, specifically through how we organize time. So this is part of a larger series of videos where I'm talking about how we can think about agency and developing students' agency in schools through 4 principal design factors: time, space, relationships, and resources. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the organization of time, or scheduling, routines. How can we organize routines and schedules in schools in a way that promotes the development of students' agency? Now, just going back to another video in this series that talks about agency as a concept, what it means, I just want to remind you that when I'm talking about agency, I'm talking about, first of all, opening up the possibility for students to make choices, but not only that, thinking about a more expanded view or a deeper view as well of agency that considers the quality of the choice making, how students can use knowledge and mobilize it in making informed, intentional, and meaningful choices. But in this video, thinking about time, the first step is opening up this possibility for how school schedules and routines can be rethought, revised, redesigned, so that students actually have some voice in making decisions about how they use their time at school. So the big question, that kind of like question word that underlies the whole discussion on agency, is thinking about what are the whys, what are the purposes, what are the reasons for making certain choices. So when we think about what is the core why, the core purpose and reason, then we can think about what we're doing organizationally in terms of time and also space, relationships, and resources to express the principles and values that are implicit in that why. So how we organize schooling in terms of time, it should depart from a place of what is the purpose, what is the reason, what is the why. So thinking about that, when we look at how school is typically structured in more of a traditional model, you see that students get to school and their day is scheduled out usually in 45 to 50-minute class periods, divided up and fragmented by different subjects, and they don't have any voice in saying how that time is organized in a schedule, which subjects come first, second, third, or even the idea of organizing by subjects. They're not even presented the opportunity, typically within a traditional model, to think about how that could be even a different structure of how to organize time. So I want to propose a few ideas of how we can rethink this structure and some ideas for redesigning the organizational structure of time to promote students' agency in school. So one idea that I want to talk about is block scheduling. Now, block scheduling still maintains the idea of blocks that are typically organized by subjects, but it expands the amount of time within the subject area to be maybe a double class or a double period or a triple period, or even a full day within that discipline. So block scheduling can be organized on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a term like a trimester, a bimester, a semester basis. So it gives a little bit more flexibility in thinking about how to organize schedules. Now, right now I'm talking about kind of this macro level of thinking about how schedules are organized between different subject areas. But there's also how they're organized within the class itself. So if I'm in a block schedule and this block is a math block, I can think about how is the time organized within that math block that would promote the development of students' agency by giving them choices about how they organize their time within that block of the math, which could be maybe, like I said, 2 or 3 periods on any given day. So maybe there's a list of different tasks that need to be completed, but students can decide the order in which they're completed, the time they take for each task to complete it, making links to these other organizational and design aspects like relationships, who they're going to work with, who they might ask for support, the teacher taking the role as a kind of advisor, giving orientation, giving guidance, but not at the front all the time, giving a kind of lecture style class. So that kind of leads into another kind of time organization, which could be, instead of a strict subject-based organization that can be blocked out in many different ways, it could be a project-based organization. So projects could be inside of a single subject, and then within, let's say the project is a big theme that students are studying, like ecosystems or biomes in biology, for instance. But then within that, there are many sub-themes. So it could be divided by different types of biomes or ecosystems, or it could be divided into how we would build sustainable houses within different biomes, or the ideas can go on and on. But students then can have a choice in terms of sub-themes within a larger theme that they would study. Now, these projects can also be interdisciplinary. And if they're interdisciplinary, then the blocks can be, instead of a math, science, and social studies, 3 different blocks, it could be those 3 subjects integrated into one project that works with curricular contents from each area, but within the project. So like I said about building sustainable homes, they need to know about the biome that they're going to study, like what are the resources available, water sources, what kinds of climate and environment constitute that biome, what do they have access to in terms of building materials that are available locally, like close by in the biome, that they don't need to think about huge expenses and the pollution cost, the carbon footprint of transporting different building materials from faraway locations. So they would think about aspects related to biology content, related to biomes, aspects related to math content. If they need to build, they need to think about measurements, dimensions. It's going to come into geometry, thinking about the architectural design and how you build something, and think about square footage and all the materials needed for the build according to the measurements, etc. And then social studies, thinking about what are the aspects that are important culturally, socially, historically in building the sustainable house. What does it mean to build a sustainable house versus a non-sustainable house? What are we talking about? That kind of merges and blurs the lines between disciplines, because you're going to draw upon the natural sciences and the social sciences in answering that question. But all of this that I'm giving as an example would be, this is a project block. It would involve the teachers, let's say with older kids that would have specialist teachers, a math teacher, a science teacher, and a social studies teacher, perhaps organizing themselves that one teacher is responsible for one block on one day, another teacher is responsible for another block on another day, or combining classes. So the classes that they would be in 3 different classes, those 3 classes are in this project time, and the teachers are rotating in the different classes, giving this guidance and advising and giving orientation. That's another kind of idea of how to organize time that gives students more agency in their decision making. But this applies to 2 main aspects. One is how we structure the teaching and learning process, so the content that's being learned in different curricular subjects is used to empower students to make more informed, intentional, and meaningful choices in the lives that they lead. And in relation to time, how we're acting as mentors and advisors as teachers and giving them orientation to reflect upon how they are spending their time, how they're organizing their time within a project or within a curricular area, how much time they're devoting to different aspects or tasks that they're developing as part of their work. Sometimes maybe certain tasks could be done more efficiently in terms of time, and others might require further investment in their time, but also on a more holistic level, how they are organizing themselves in time, things that give this kind of balance to life, but for each one that balance can be a little bit different. And so our role as teachers is also to help them in reflecting upon how they're spending their time, so that they're not just making choices that are based on a routine action, based on an automatic action, based on just that's the way they've been doing it, and so they continue to do it that way, without taking a step back and thinking about why, and thinking about the purpose that underlies organizing their time in one way or another. So this is my take on it, about how we can rethink the organization and the designs of time, how it's structured in schools in order to promote students' agency in choice making and in making quality choices that are more informed, intentional, and meaningful. And I invite you to engage in this conversation with me and others at contemporaryeducation.com. Thanks.